Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye coverage of the 2014 elections continues. We're interviewing Mr. Dick Cates of Spring Green. He's a Democratic candidate in Assembly District 51. Mr. Cates, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Well, thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Dick, my first question for you is based on something on your website. You say you elect me, you get a new brand of politics. Please explain.
I'd be pleased to. I have served for decades in civic responsibilities. Our local school board for 9 years, our Town Plan Commission, our Spring Green Learning Foundation at the state level on the Wisconsin Department of Ag's board of directors, as well as all of the policy committees that went along with that assignment. And nationally, I've served as an advisor to several USDA secretaries under the Bush administration, advising on beginning farmer and rancher policy. I have learned how to stay at the table and conduct business in a civil, respectful manner. I value listening because, to me, it's the major portion of communication. And so that's the brand of politics that I will bring.
Pardon me, Dick, but that bipartisan assembly is not your father's assembly, and I'm saying that because your father served in the assembly. You've heard about the level of partisanship up there. You still think you can do a deal with both sides?
You know, the only way to do it is to be at the table, and I believe that we all really want to pull the same rope. We have to be willing to listen and respect each other, and we'll find common ground.
Okay, if you're a member of the assembly, one of the biggest issues next year, especially as a former school board member or current? Current.
Yes.
Is funding of K-12. What would be your priorities as a member of the assembly as they debate what level of funding and what other changes for our public schools, sir?
You bet. Our public schools, as set forth in our Constitution, state Constitution, I believe is the greatest institution that we have in our state. Our public schools have essentially created the culture and of well-being that we have in our state of Wisconsin. In our rural areas, but particularly my district, the 51st, our schools are very good, and yet they are struggling every year financially. They're struggling as transportation costs increase, as they deal with increasing levels of poverty, declining enrollment. And our funding system is based on property value, not per capita income. And so we get less assistance from the state than many other districts across the state of Wisconsin. I see that we need what Superintendent Evers calls a system of fair funding for our future, where we go back to a 2/3 state assistance. We have additional funds for poverty level and additional funds to cover transportation. Those are very important changes in my mind.
I've got a few more follow-up questions on education, so I'll have to go quickly. The impact of Act 10 on the school district on which you serve, sir?
We had a culture of respect in my school district. We were able to work very successfully with the labor unions, and we did not need to take their rights away. It caused a tremendous uncertainty, mistrust, and I believe that our public employees, in this case mostly our teachers, have earned our respect, and I want to see them have collective bargaining opportunities into the future.
Another big question in terms of funding schools next year is vouchers and choice. Your position on those?
My position unequivocally is that we should not be increasing the voucher system in Wisconsin. That we essentially are creating two education systems, and we barely have enough money to fund one.
Okay. And then your response to Governor Walker's call that Wisconsin repeal or withdraw from Common Core standards, sir?
That also unequivocally, I have not just that I believe in Common Core, but I've been to all 16 school districts that lap into the 51st Assembly District. I've spoken to all their boards and their superintendents, and every one of them supports Common Core state standards. And I think of the taxpayer money that's gone into the training and the purchase of the curriculum. For the last 4 years, we've been gearing up in this direction. To scrap that is tremendously wasteful, and it would create uncertainty. Those standards were developed by experts in education, corporate leaders, as well as policy leaders. And they are a floor, not a ceiling, but a floor that if a student takes English or math in Louisiana, they're going to learn the same things they're going to learn in California. I think they're tremendously valuable.
New subject, transportation funding. Farmers like you in the 51st District need a good road system to get your commodities out.
Right.
Yet the Taxpayers Alliance says if we fund statewide transportation at the current levels, or 2013 levels, for the next 10 years, we're $2 billion short, a deficit.
Correct.
Think there's a deficit, and if so, how would you fix it?
Yes, I think there's a deficit, and by some estimates, it's even up to $7 billion after 10 years. First of all, we need to create some certainty that the transportation fund will not be lapsed, that is, borrowed from, in the future. So I support the constitutional amendment.
That'll be on the ballot in November.
That will be on the ballot
along
on
with your name. Yes.
You bet. And I support user-based revenue methods, such as sales tax. There's many. We have to have a conversation. But as you look across the states, these are some of the tools. Increasing the gas tax, adding sales tax on fuel purchases, a variable gas tax, heavier vehicles pay more, and vehicle miles traveled. And finally, tolls. Tolls will take some time because there has to be some federal rule changes, but we can increase the revenue stream with a user fee approach. And it's absolutely critical because our infrastructure, if we don't keep up with our infrastructure, we don't have economic development. And we don't have jobs in our local area.
So you're willing to consider all those options?
Oh, you bet.
Okay. Healthcare question. As you know, 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents gets their health care through our Medicaid program.
Sure.
American Hospital Association says Wisconsin has the second lowest reimbursement rate for that program.
Yeah.
Do you have a position on whether those rates should be increased, sir?
Absolutely. I sure do. I think access to quality and affordable health care is a priority, and I support raising that reimbursement rate to make sure that our health providers are adequately reimbursed. I have a brother who's a physician with the Monroe Clinic down in Greene County in Monroe. He runs the Broadhead Clinic, and he confers exactly with my position on that.
Okay. There's going to be a bill introduced next year to legalize medical marijuana. That travels, of course, with the issue. We've seen Colorado, state of Washington legalize the recreational use of marijuana. Your positions on those two issues?
My position is, I think the first thing that's important is that we decriminalize marijuana. These are victimless crimes most of the time, and I just don't think that the possession of a small amount of marijuana warrants incarcerating people. It costs the taxpayers money. Why not tax or fine those individuals who have more than a certain amount? And the state coffers will benefit, and we'll keep our prisons not so crowded. As far as going all the way to legalizing marijuana, I think that we're not ready to do that. I've read about how difficult a process that has been for Washington State in particular, and some of the federal rules do not align with complete legalization of marijuana. So I think we should go slow on that step.
A couple questions on environmental issues. The first bill, one of the first bills that passed the last session, changed the rules that allowed Gogebic Taconite to apply for that permit to open the open pit iron mine in Ashland and Iron counties.
Right.
Would you have voted for that bill? Do you have a position?
I would have supported Senator Schultz's position, where there was much stronger environmental protection. I think we've got ourselves in a very difficult position now, where the feds are having a difficult time working with us because our regulations are so lax. I'm not against creating jobs. What I'm for is creating jobs and protecting our environment, and I don't think we got it right in that situation.
Okay. Is frac sand mining an issue in the 51st?
It is partially because it is symbolic of the local control, tradition of local control.
Right.
We have some potential frac mining that could occur on the lower Wisconsin Riverway, although it's not actually in my district, but we're all aware of it. Mm-hmm. And the biggest issue for us, for the towns, for me, is that the governments have a local control and say over what those rules are going to be. We don't want them written by out-of-state companies, mining companies, and pushed through the legislature. So I protect that tradition of local control.
There was a bill introduced that would have preempted some local governments from acting, and it would have set state standards. So it sounds to me like you're saying you would not have supported that.
Oh, absolutely not. And I conferred very extensively with the Towns Association, and was right with them.
As a lifelong farmer, someone who's taught farming and mentored other farmers, tell me about the state of ag in Wisconsin. How healthy is it, or is that the wrong term?
Well, I am so thankful that you're asking me this, because if you hadn't, I would have jumped right on it at the end of the interview. When I get up in the morning, I think about farming and agriculture, because that's what I do. That's my business. My family built a business over 30 years, very successful. I train new farmers for 20 years. I started a program 20 years ago, Wisconsin School for Beginning Dairy and Livestock Farmers, and I've trained over 350 kids out living their dream, running a farm on their own or with their family. We have so much potential in Wisconsin because we have rich soil and it rains. And across the West, we're seeing that their agriculture is in jeopardy. So we need to protect our farmland. We need to train our new farmers. And with this local food movement, the rural development leadership in Iowa County considers that the local food movement is a quintessential opportunity for farming, for new farmers, and connecting our food that we produce with our local economy. We churn those dollars and we keep them close to home. I think now more than ever, Wisconsin agriculture is really the economic engine of our state.
Okay. Two other questions, because we're almost out of time. It became an issue in the primary for Attorney General. First offense drunken driving, should it be a crime, Mr. Cates?
You know, I don't work in that area. It's hard for me. I know that we've in a sense we've kind of created our own destiny with our culture of tailgating, etc. I'm not really very versed on that. I don't know where to go with that one.
Okay, and then finally, do you want to highlight any differences between you and your opponent, Mr. Nowak, on November 4?
Mr. Nowak is a fine gentleman. He knows the issues. I think the difference is for 2 decades, I've sat on the other side of the table of decision making. I've not only have attended hundreds of board meetings in all those different capacities we discussed earlier, but I've made thousands of votes. And every one of those votes, I've had to listen, contemplate, and find consensus. And even over issues as contentious as livestock siting, nutrient management planning, letting a teacher go, we've found ways to do it with respect, civility, and integrity. And that is what I am able to bring.
Thank you. Dick Cates of Spring Green is a Democrat running in the 51st Assembly District. Mr. Cates, thank you very much.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks.
My pleasure.